I wrote this record while 30,000 feet in the air. Steward is complimenting me on my nappy hair. If I can fuck her in front of all of these passengers, they'll probably think I'm a terrorist. Eat my asparagus, then I'm
Yo, what is good, guys? I decided to bring you guys a singles RMT just because I know in the past I've done VGC RMT, so I figured I might as well switch it into singles. Not only that, but this is my first major team for the Uber single metagame this generation, and I've done really well with it. I've RMT'd it on Smogon, and I figured I'd bring it to my channel so that way you guys could see it too. If you guys want to see the Smogon RMT, link will be down in the description. You can always go there to do the team import, because I don't like doing team imports in the description because it makes them unnecessarily long. But yeah, this is the team. Hold Up. The name isn't really anything significant. When I ladder, normally my names are Kendrick Lamar songs. I love Kendrick Lamar, and this is just the song I happened to pick because I was on a huge Hold Up high for a while. And that's just where the team came from, because I just wanted to test this team. Honestly, I didn't expect it to be anything staggering, but it did really well. But yeah, that's basically the name of the team. Where it came from, it's nothing special, but this team, however, does definitely, you know, hold a special place in my heart because it's done really well, and especially for a first built team, so to say. Anyways, let's just run through the team members real quick. It consists of Kyogre, Arceus Grass, Giratina, Jirachi, Xerneas, and Mega Mewtwo X. However, it just appears as regular Mewtwo, and you won't know it's Mega Mewtwo X till I Mega Evolve. But that's not the point, because Mega Mewtwo X is the primary sweeper of this team, that and Xerneas, and that brings me to the team objective. This whole team is designed to support and aid a swept carried out by Mega Mewtwo X or Xerneas. When I originally made this team, okay, well, back up. I originally wanted to use both Mega Mewtwo X and Mega Mewtwo Y, so I made a separate team for both of them. I played with the Mega Mewtwo Y team. I really liked it, but like, it just didn't fit me, so to say. But so then I was like, oh, let's try the Mega Mewtwo X team. And I fell in love with it, and I've been using it ever since, and I've done really well with it. I've had a really good success rate. Even my win-loss ratio, I don't know right now. I'll have to, you know, check it on Showdown. But it's really good. And most of the times I've lost, you know, like, not to like justify anything, but it's because of hacks or something like that. I mean, there are a few matches that I genuinely lost. Like, I just played bad, or, you know, his team outdid mine, you know, whatever. But most of the times, hacks has been involved in getting destroyed. But, yeah, like I said, this team is designed to, you know, get a sweep set up by Mega Mewtwo X or Xerneas. The other four members are the supportive core, which allows that to happen. Giratina is kind of the exception, because Giratina flips between the offense and the defense, and you'll see when we get to Giratina how he kind of fulfills that in-between role, so to say. But, yeah, I guess we should just stop talking about all this stuff, and we should actually get into, like, the spreads and the moves and the Pokemon and whatnot. So, yeah, let's start. Alright, so first and foremost, we have Kyogre. Nothing fancy. It's the defensive spread from 5th gen, and one of the things I have to say before I dive into this is that I was really surprised coming back to find all these offensive Kyogres. I understand why, but it was still just a bit of a shock for me. Anyways, nothing fancy. Like I said, it is just the defensive Kyogre set. Bold, max defense, max HP, 4 in special attack. I just felt like putting it there. I know some people say to put it in speed, but I don't really care, because I don't know, you just don't see defensive Kyogre anymore, so there's no reason to put like 4 or 8 in speed, because you don't have to worry about a speed tie for the most part anymore. Anyways, Rest, Sleep, Talk, Roar, Scald. Defensive Kyogre should not be overlooked. It should not, because Kyogre still does its job really well. It still takes all the hits you want it to. This team benefits from rain support. And I mean, for granted, it's only 5 turns, you know, that's still 5 useful turns, so to say. Like, there have been times where I'm like, oh man, I'm so glad, even just for 5 turns, I have the rain at least. You know, it's beneficial. And it still is annoying and hard to kill. Like, Kyogre does not die. It does not. It's very bulky, and it's very hard to find something that can actually 2-hit KO Kyogre without some kind of boost or any kind. But anyways, defensive Kyogre, yeah, like I said, still holds a place in my heart. Its primary job on this team is checking E-Killer, helping with Blaziken, as well as other fire-based threats like Groudon, Ho-Oh, Reshiram, White Kyurem. Even though White Kyurem technically is an ice type, it still gets Fusion Flare, so I put that always under like a fire type check, so to say. I don't know why, that's just how my brain does it. But those are generally some of the first big threats I always think of when I think of a team. I think of, okay, I think of E-Killer, I think of Blaziken, I think of Ho-Oh, I think of other Kyogres, and Zekrom too, because normally those 5 Pokemon in my head are just always the biggest threats. That and Rayquaza, but it doesn't matter what kind of weather support you have, Rayquaza's airlock effect kind of takes its toll, and I'll actually talk about that later. But anyways, those are just some of the threats I always put there, and most of those things Kyogre can handle to some extent, so I always put a Kyogre on my team, not for the sake of having a rain team, but just the sake of having something to check those things and to be able to scare them or phase them out. And that's why, because, you know, E-Killer is such a huge threat. At +2, I know I can take an E-Speed from full. I think Silk Scarf does around 60-ish%. I'll put calcs in a little bubble up there for you guys so you guys can see, because I feel bad not having them on me right now. But, you know, the fact that I can take an E-Speed at +2, roar it out, not have to worry about it, and then potentially rest up on whatever, you know, might come in, that's a great feeling. It really is. Not only that, but I have the chance to Scald Burn it, or just, you know, it's just, Kyogre's just so versatile still, and it still does its defensive job really well. For Blaziken, a combination of him and Giratina. I normally switch in Giratina on the predicted HJK, because you're not going to go for Flare Blitz in the rain on a Kyogre. Do a lot of damage that way, and then my Giratina's packing Shadow Sneak. So, yeah, I normally can finish off Blaziken from that point. I think it needs to have more than just the 50% from HJK onto it, though. I think it needs to have, like, Stealth Rock's damage as well, but I can get a calc for that later, too. But Kyogre just checks that. Ho-Oh does have Brave Bird, but most Ho-Ohs nowadays are especially defensive because of Xerneas. So Ho-Oh tends to not have as much attack power as it used to, or not as big as an investment, I should say. So Ho-Oh is kind of manageable, but I have run into offensive Ho-Ohs, and they do still pack a punch. Groudon, Kyogre just always naturally checks Groudon. I haven't seen Groudon a lot. Like, I've seen him a few times, but not as substantial as you would think. Actually, the same goes for Reshiram and White Kyurem. I've only seen those things maybe 1 or 2 times in my little Uber's adventure here. And just Kyogre just still does his job. And I mean, the rain support helps Jirachi, it helps Arceus Grass, it even helps Giratina and Xerneas to some extent. It works out, it really does. And defensive Kyogre should not be undermined. I don't have a lot to say about him right now in terms of his regular bio, but when other members of the team come up, you're going to see how Kyogre wedges his way into their position too, and how it's kind of almost like an interlocking puzzle, so to say. Kyogre's piece fits in with Arceus Grass fits in with, you know, Giratina, and so on and so forth. And you'll see what I mean as I continue to talk about each of the team members. But for now, that's all I have to say about Kyogre. He doesn't pack the same punch that the offensive Kyogres do nowadays, but he still gets the job done, he still never dies, and he still is a great asset to this team. Alright, second we're going to talk about Arceus Grass. Arceus Grass is a wonderful Pokemon. I've always liked Arceus Grass. I used it in 5th gen, and not much has changed in 6th gen, to say the least. This is a custom spread I came up with. It's Calm Nature with 216 in HP, 88 in Speed, and 204 in Specialty Defense. The reason I have the 88 in Speed is because that allows me to outpace Pokemon in the 99 base speed tier that are not running a speed boosted nature. So for example, like say a modest Xerneas, I can outspeed that. Primarily though, I kind of used it originally for Yveltal because playing around, like, I noticed Yveltal's like mixed, like Sucker Punch, Oblivion Wing, Dark Pulse, Substitute Roost respectively. I actually came up with a Yveltal set of my own, and that's what I ran to. But it still gives me enough to outpace what I need, and even base 90s that are that don't have the speed nature, always good. I actually did think about putting in enough to outpace Palkia, but I figured in the end I'd want more special bulk rather than speed, so that's kind of where my logic came from, in case anyone's wondering why I don't outpace Palkia. Anyways, as you can kind of see from the moves here, I am a supportive set. I have Will-O-Wisp, Recover, Defog, and Judgment. Arceus Grass is if there was like a body, if you could picture like a human body, this team being like a human body, Arceus Grass would be the shoulders of this body, because he carries all the weight in the world on his shoulders. He has so many responsibilities on this team. So we're going to have to go through all of them because he's got a lot. The first and foremost biggest responsibilities he has is he's responsible for checking Zekrom and E-Killer. Will-O-Wisp, that's why. I can Will-O-Wisp Zekroms, and I know Zekroms are specially based, well, specially mixed nowadays, I should say. So, I can Will-O-Wisp, that way I can sponge the physical and the special hits and just recover it off. E-Killers that like a Lumberry, Will-O-Wisp that, take care of that. And it's just those two threats in itself, because if you look at my team, I don't really have good answers to either of those things. So they are like on the top of my threat list. So I needed an answer for those, and Arceus Grass does it so well. The second thing is he bears the defogging role. And the reason he's my defogger is, let's stop and talk about things that lay up hazards real quick, okay? You got Ferrothorn, Dialga, Jirachi, Landorus T, Fortress, the Deoxys, but I have other ways of handling the Deoxys. But let's just talk about those first five right there. Ferrothorn, Dialga, Jirachi, Landorus, and Ferrothorn, Fortress. Most of them can't do a whole lot to touch Arceus Grass if you really think about it. I mean, for granted, Dialga has Fire Blast or Flamethrower, and Jirachi and Landorus carry U-Turn and da-da-da-da-da. But that's nothing that Arceus Grass can't sponge and recover off later if you really think about it. I mean, U-Turn's not going to be doing a whole lot because most Rachis and Landorus who are carrying Stealth Rocks are defensive in some way. Offensive leading Dialga, I mean, most of them do have quite a bit invested in special attack, but Kyogre, if the rain support is up, can, you know, weaken that Fire Blast damage. And not only that, but if I can Will-O-Wisp Dialga or just even defog its hazards while it's setting it up, you know, then that's all good. And I do have other things to come in and check Dialga. Mostly Kyogre kind of takes care of that role because Dialga doesn't have a whole lot in its arsenal that can really hit Kyogre, and I can always sit there and scald it and burn it. Not only that, but even just a stock scald from my defensive Kyogre does around 20-ish% to Dialga, if I remember correctly, in the rain, of course. And it's not laughing damage. It's quite a bit for a defensive poke. And Ferrothorn is essentially just waiting to get burnt by Arceus Grass. It can set up hazards, but I can defog it. And the best part is when I defog it, because of the accuracy, evasion lowering, my Will-O-Wisps are almost always guaranteed to hit. If not, I think they are. I can't remember how much evasion gets lowered off the top of my head. But the point is that Ferrothorn cannot touch Arceus Grass whatsoever, and I can just sit there and get rid of its hazards, Will-O-Wisp things. And because I know Ferrothorns 9 out of 10 times are forced to switch, I can double Willow, meaning that something else coming in is more than likely going to get Will-O-Wisped upon. And it's a great feeling when you can just sit there and double Willow and not have to worry about it. Not only that, but after, you know, playing the defog role and checking the Zekroms and the E-Killers, he's also responsible for handling Palkia and Kyogre. Palkia, for granted, is a little bit harder to deal with. I do need the rain because a regular Palkia's Fire Blast to my spread does about 39 to 46%. It is a 3-hit KO, but if you factor in Stealth Rocks, there's a potential for 2-hit KOing. Not only that, but you figure the rain would help weaken the Fire Blast, and then after that, Palkia literally has nothing to touch me with. I mean, I guess it has Spatial Rend, but even then, that's not something that's going to be doing a whole lot of damage, just because I am specially defensive. So, I have ways of working around Palkia. But if the rain's not up, it becomes a problem really fast. I'm sure you guys can tell by this team, I don't really have a solid answer to Palkia, but I'll get into threats and problems later. And Kyogre. Scarf Kyogre, because it just locks itself into Water Spout, first and foremost, because A, it doesn't know my Arceus type, and B, that's what you do if you're a Scarfed Kyogre. Its Water Spout only does about 30-something%. I mean, I can sit there and take it all day long. Like, I don't have a problem. Then I can just Judgment to get it weaker, or predicting the switch, I can Will-O-Wisp. Not only that, but even if it's Specs, even a Specs Water Spout in the rain only has a 35% chance to 2-hit KO me, and because I know I'll more than likely outspeed because most Specs Kyogre run Modest, I have nothing to worry about because I can just Judgment and then just, you know, again, weaken the Water Spout. So Arceus Grass bears a lot on his shoulders. He basically checks most of my problems in the metagame. Him in combination with Kyogre's Rain support. And sometimes Giratina and Jirachi need to come in and help. But, if there was a way to break down my defensive core, to be honest, I would break it down into two teams. There's Team Kyogre and Arceus Grass, and then there's Team Jirachi and Giratina. And when we get into Jirachi and Giratina next, you're going to see how they work together, and they handle their portion of threats together. But Arceus Grass and Kyogre, for the most part, the two of them are responsible for phasing, getting rid of physical threats, and just being able to sponge everything that needs to be needed. They're also really good for taking unwanted statuses. Kyogre mostly because he can rest it off, and Arceus Grass because I've noticed T-Wave's becoming a more common thing, which is really annoying. But you know, I'd rather have Arceus Grass T-Wave before it's Toxic or Will-O-Wisp, especially Toxic because we all know how annoying that is, and Will-O-Wisp because residual damage is residual damage. But yeah, Arceus Grass, definitely a huge team player in this whole team, and has saved my butt more than once. Alright, next we get Giratina, and I am using the Giratina Origin form just because I feel like the offensive form is better for what my team needs as opposed to the defensive form. Not only that, but as you guys just saw, I do have 2 reasonable answers to E-Killer and other physical threats, so that is that. Anyways, nothing really fancy. This is, I guess, the common spread nowadays, because I tried to look up what the common spreads before I did this. Just Adamant Nature, Max Attack, almost Max HP, and 32 in Speed. I run weird little speed numbers like that because in 5th Gen, there were some pokes with the 90 base speed tier that would run like 16 or 20 to outpace those who ran like 8 and so. So I'd always run like extra, like 24, 28, 32. I just picked 32 for this one for the sake of picking 32. You can pick whatever number you want. I just wanted a little bit of speed. And the moves are Toxic Roar, Dragon Claw, and Shadow Sneak. Like I said from the start, this team isn't blistering fast, so this is where Giratina kind of takes his offensive role. Giratina is partially responsible for helping Kyogre check Blaziken. The combination of a Dragon Claw and Shadow Sneak normally is enough if I don't have the HJK damage off on it, because most time Blaziken actually needs to try to Swords Dance, or if it has a Swords Dance up, Flare Blitz does absolutely nothing, and I can just Dragon Claw and Sneak that way to save myself more damage, because I don't think 2 Shadow Sneaks is a guaranteed KO on the standard Blaziken set. But anyways, for granted, he is not as bulky as his alternate form, but he still does his job. I also put Giratina on here because some people still do run spinners. I know it's not as common, but I still want a spin blocker just in case it came down to it. Yeah, that was basically one of my main reasons. And now let's talk about Team Jirachi and Giratina. Jirachi and Giratina have to check 2, well, technically like 4 of the most threatening things in Ubers. That would be Mewtwo and the 3 Deoxys forms, Normal, Speed, and Attack. They can't really handle Deoxys defense, that's why I didn't put them on. Like, they do take care of it, but they can't 2-hit KO like they can all of these things. So, normally what Jirachi and Giratina do is, because, for me personally, Jirachi 9 times out of 10 is going to end up being my lead. So Jirachi, if they lead with Mewtwo, Deoxys Normal, Deoxys Speed, Deoxys Attack, U-turn out because Jirachi can sponge any one hit from them, get enough damage off to bring in Giratina, and then sneak them. You'd be surprised actually how many times Deoxys Speed will just either taunt Jirachi predicting my Stealth Rocks, and then can't do anything because, you know, Giratina's here and Giratina's gonna Shadow Sneak you. Like that's just the end, that's how it ends. So Jirachi and Giratina definitely take care of things in that way. Not only that, but it even works like in later game. Like if there's something I know I just need a little bit of damage on, Jirachi can U-turn, I can go out into Giratina, and then wham, Shadow Sneak, and that's the end. So Jirachi and Giratina are kind of used as a pick-off combination, so to say, but they still pack a defensive backbone to this team. What else? I have Roar over Dragon Tail because Xerneas. That's it, Xerneas. Some people do run Dragon Tail. I also saw, I think on the little like showdown calculator thing, that one of the recommended moves is Dragon Tail. I didn't like that, so I switched it to Roar. Not only that, but it's way more reliable because if you have something with a substitute up, Dragon Tail just breaks the sub. It doesn't actually phase, for those of you who don't know that. So I find Roar just always being much nicer than Dragon Tail. I've always liked it like that, ever since 5th Gen, to be honest. There have just been times where I was like, I just wish I had Roar, and ever since then I just put it on because it does it. The end. Not only that, but if it comes down to one of those stupid evasion things, because for those of you who don't remember, evasion is not a thing in Ubers. Yeah. That's really annoying. But Roar is now accuracy-less, meaning it will always hit. And now you're probably wondering, you know, just looking at the moves, Toxic and Roar, what are you thinking? Well, I kind of explained my justification for Roar just a little while ago. And not only that, but if Kyogre goes down too early, I do have a backup phaser in some way. That's always really nice, especially with stuff like E-Killer running around. For granted, most of them run Shadow Claw or Shadow Force respectively. I still have some way to phase if it comes down to it. And I don't have to sit there and be like, crap, I wish I had a phaser. Not only that, but you would be surprised of the number of people who just leave in their Xerneas on my Giratina. They bring it in, predicting the Dragon Claw or whatever. They Geomancy it up, and you just roar them out. It's the greatest feeling in the world. It really is, because you're like, ah, yes, threat averted. And it's wonderful. It really is. As for Toxic, there are just things that, you know, you just stare at and you're like, I wish I had Toxic to get it off on that. Most of those things, to be honest, if you want the list, is Arceus Ghost, Yveltal, the alternate Giratina form, and even Lugia. Most people will actually bring in Yveltal on Giratina. And they'll sometimes, you know, go for Oblivion Wing, you know, predicting some kind of switch, because, you know, who's going to stand and take a Dark Pulse like an idiot, you know? And when they go for the Oblivion Wing, I Toxic, and Toxic in combination with the Life Orb racks up really quick on Yveltal. Because, as you can also probably see by this team, I have nothing for Yveltal. But Giratina kind of helps me take care of that. The only reason I don't run Will-O-Wisp on Giratina, I actually used to, is because Arceus Grass. Arceus Grass used to run Toxic, Giratina ran Will-O-Wisp. I figured just switching the two moves on the two pokes would be better. And in the end, it has definitely been better. I mean, there have been just times where I was just like, you know what, I wish I just had Toxic on this thing. And it works. But, yeah, that's basically Giratina. He functions between defensive and, you know, pick-off roles. He's a weird member of this team. He doesn't really fall into either of the categories. That's kind of how I see it. But anyways, one more in the defensive backbone, and then we'll get on to the powerhouse sweepers. Last and certainly not least is little Jirachi here. It's a specially defensive set from 5th Gen. Careful nature with 224 special defense, 252 HP, 32 in speed, just a little bit of speed. Just in case there are other base 100s like Jirachi running around the tier. I have actually seen Celebi quite a few times, and the 32 in speed has definitely come to help. And now Jirachi. Now, I didn't actually think of Jirachi right away. When I was making this team, and I kind of went through most of it, Jirachi I think was the last slot to be put in. But, I noticed I had a Xerneas problem. Nothing on my team took a hit from Xerneas. That kind of problem. I was going to use my custom Arceus Poison spread because on my Mewtwo Y team, I do have an Arceus Poison, which I use for Xerneas. But, I realized that Arceus Grass was absolutely necessary. Like, this team could not function without Arceus Grass. And, also because, like I said, I think it was like the 6th or 5th slot, I needed a Stealth Rocker, and I really wanted something with U-Turn, so I could have a pivot support. And, Landorus T came to mind, but I was like, Landorus T is not going to be able to handle Xerneas. That's just, no. So I kind of stopped for a little bit, and then I went back and I, looked around, and I was like, Jirachi, that's it. So Jirachi kind of just ended up there. Offensive Xerneas does 2-hit KO Jirachi with Focus Blast. I'm nice to know I'm not the only guy thinking of this, but Hidden Power Fire Xerneas, that's also a thing too. I think Hidden Power is also 2-hit KO as well. Potentially 3-hit KO if I remember correctly. Again, I'll put a damage calc up there for you guys at +2. But offensive Xerneas is always 2-hit KO'd by Iron Head for the most part. I think it's like a 56% chance or something. It's over that 50% mark, so for me that's always. But after Stealth Rocks, it's a guaranteed 2-hit KO. If it's a defensive Xerneas, because I have known some people do run a bulkier spread, Iron Head is almost always a 3-hit KO. We're talking like 99.2%. Like, that's pretty much a guaranteed 3-hit KO. After Rocks, it is a guaranteed. But is just Jirachi just does everything I need. It does the Stealth Rock thing. It does the checking of the Xerneas thing. That's why I also run Iron Head on it. It does the U-turn thing, and everyone loves U-turn, especially Wild Chase. And then I just put Wish on because I just kind of figured, well, there are times when I could probably Wish, then you turn out into either, you know, Mewtwo or Xerneas, have them sponge a hit, get recovered off, and then just get ready to go, essentially. It also does get passed off to other team members, but more times than not, I'm passing it into Mewtwo or Xerneas. I did think about Healing Wish for some times. I did try it a couple times. I didn't like it as much as I did Wish. I found myself oftentimes, like, maybe it's just me and I just don't know how to play the moves, so to say, but I found myself, like, killing off my Jirachi earlier than I needed to. So that's why I just kind of have Wish. Not only that, but getting 202 HP back because Jirachi has, you know, 404 HP. That's always really nice. I mean, most of these things on my team, like, I think Xerneas has, like, 394 or something like that base HP, and then Mewtwo has, I think Mewtwo has, like, a little over 300. I can't remember Mewtwo's off the top of my head. You know, that's enough to be over half for them, so even if they get over half damage done, Jirachi can just heal them up for the most part, and I have Jirachi in my back pocket for later. But yeah, this Jirachi's job on the team, essentially to Wish Pass, Stealth Rock, and check Xerneas. I mean, that's really the only thing Jirachi is there for. That and him and Giratina are responsible for checking Mewtwo and the Deoxys forms. And yeah, I think that covers the backbone to the team. I think it's about time we got into the real powerhouses, the two that make it possible to end lives, destroy souls, you know, crushing lives. Xerneas and Mewtwo X. Alright, let's start with Xerneas. And I will admit, from day one, I was on Team Xerneas, okay? Screw Yveltal, Xerneas was the cooler one, okay? I was always Team Xerneas, and I still am, even now. Here it is, the threat of the tier, arguably the biggest threat in the current metagame, and probably one of the most influential Pokemon, Xerneas. I do run just the standard offensive power herb set. There's no reason to get fancy with this thing. It just does it. It just does. You know, if they don't have a Scizor or Genesect at around 60-70-ish%, I'm just Geomancing and I'm just going through your team. That's how Xerneas works. You don't have anything to check Xerneas, and you let it set up, it's over. It's done. The only thing I guess I need to justify on Xerneas is Psyshock. The reason I run Psyshock as opposed to like Thunder or T-Bolt, even though I am in the rain, is because originally I didn't know how common Arceus Poison would be, because, you know, that just kind of jumped out first thing in my head. It's like, oh, what checks Xerneas? Oh, Arceus Poison does. You know, that was my reasoning. And, so that's why I made my custom Arceus Poison spread. Just to let you guys know, I +2 a Psyshock to my personal Arceus Poison spread that I use. It does 67 to 79%. That's scary. That's really scary considering I'm max HP, and then I have so much in special defense. I can't remember how much in special defense. I think it's like 212 or something like that. I don't remember. But, that's a lot of damage, especially considering it can't switch in on a Psyshock. It can't. Even if you like Moonblast first, because why wouldn't you Moonblast? Like, you don't Focus Blast unless you absolutely need to. But I think the combination of actually just a Moonblast plus Psyshock is enough to actually take out my set after Stealth Rocks. And maybe you don't even need Stealth Rocks. I'll post a little bubble if Stealth Rocks are needed or not to guarantee that combination of a Moonblast plus Psyshock kill. I mean, even Ho-Oh takes about 50-ish%, like I was saying, because Ho-Ohs are now especially defensive. And for granted, Thunder's a 2-hit KO, but if I don't always have the rain up, that's really shaky accuracy. I'm already relying on Focus Miss. I don't want to have another move like that. Not only that, but if people bring in like special walls, it lets Xerneas hit off the physical side, which is always nice. I mean, for granted, you don't have like Stab or anything backing it, but it's still nice. Like stuff like Chansey Blissey, which I also haven't seen a lot of now that I think about it. Strange. Anyways, that's Xerneas. He's the special sweeper, essentially, because Mewtwo kind of plays a role as the physical sweeper. And something I forgot to mention at the beginning, if Xerneas or Mewtwo dies for whatever reason, they normally have caused enough collateral damage to the point where the other one can come in and just plow through the rest of the team. Between Mewtwo X and Xerneas, there's enough damage done that teams just get pelted through. It really works. Like, I didn't think they'd work out as good as they did, but they do a fantastic job together. And then finally, Mewtwo X, I should say. I am running a Jolly Nature because I want to be fast. Yeah, the OG Uber himself, now in 2 forms. Like I said, I did use Mewtwo Y, but it's kind of pathetic because I knew originally that Mewtwo Y was still weaker than regular Mewtwo with a Life Orb. But it's just to a point where it's actually kind of disappointing because you'd think it'd just be a little bit stronger. But you know, hey, beggars can't be choosers. I will use regular Mewtwo with a Life Orb any day. But anyways, Mega Mewtwo X, this is my spread. I use Bulk Up, Drain Punch, Zen Headbutt, Ice Punch. Is essentially the regular Mewtwo spread gone physical. That's the best way I can describe it. The reason I have Drain Punch over Low Kick, because I do know Low Kick is a thing, is because the recovery factor. Think about it. I mean, for granted, you are missing damage, but the damage you're missing, you're getting the HP back. It's so much more worth it, in my opinion, to have Drain Punch, because you let Mewtwo X live longer. Like, that longevity makes it so much harder to take him down. I mean, I think just regular E-Killer takes almost over 50% from just a stock Drain Punch. Like, that's a lot of HP, because Arceus has got a lot of HP. It just does its job so well. I mean, again, that's why I run Drain Punch. Zen Headbutt, I am a little disappointed, I guess, that there isn't a stronger physical psychic move for Mewtwo X, but whatever. Most times I find myself just actually using just Drain Punch and Ice Punch, to be honest, on this thing. And, again, Ice Punch should be self-explanatory. I run Bulk Up as opposed to, like, Taunt or Recover, because I don't need Recover because I do have Drain Punch. Taunt, I haven't found a situation yet, I guess, where I was like, I wish I had Taunt. I've just always found myself liking Bulk Up more, because anytime I've ever found myself, like, needing Taunt, for example, like, E-Killer, I can just Bulk Up predicting the SD, and I can live the E-Speed and then just kill it off, because I'll be at +1 in defense and +1 in attack while he just got +2 in attack. You guys know how the math works out. And I don't know, I'd rather have Mewtwo X just have raw strength behind it, because he's not really doing much else rather than just punching holes through someone's team. So, I mean, I guess that's why I just don't run Taunt. I've never found a reason to use it yet. But that's Mewtwo X. Again, like I said with Xerneas, if Mewtwo X doesn't finish it off, Xerneas normally has the prowess to come in and wrap things up. But yeah, that is the team. I think I said everything I needed to say. Not true. No, I lied. I still got to go over the weaknesses. But yeah, I guess we can get into that now, actually, because I don't have much left to say. Alright, not every team is perfect. This one is no exception. These are just some of the things that I have found to be a major problem. This team probably has other minute problems that I'm kind of leaving out for now, but these are just the things that I've noticed give this team a really hard time. First and foremost, you have Alta. Like I said, I have absolutely nothing to switch in on this thing. It's mostly actually due to the steel nerfing, because Jirachi would be a great switch in if we were in 5th gen, but no. No, we had to remove those 2 resistances. Yeah, so Yveltal's kind of a problem. I really have to dance around it. I mean, Mewtwo X is sort of reliable, but it doesn't want to switch in on a Dark Pulse as regular Mewtwo, not evolved, and then if I do evolve and I don't KO with Ice Punch, it doesn't want to take an Oblivion Wing. You understand my situation here. So I need prior damage on it. Normally Stealth Rocks plus 1 turn of Toxic is enough to guarantee a Ice Punch KO, unless I have a Bulk Up. Then after that, I'm pretty sure just Stealth Rocks plus Ice Punch is enough to get rid of Yveltal. Palkia is another problem. Like I said, I do have Arceus Grass, but I need the rain. If not, it just causes me problems. Palkia is just such a diverse Pokemon, it's really hard. I mean, the only thing that really checks Palkia is like Chansey, Blissey, you know, things like that. Mega Gengar, yes, that's a problem. Again, mostly due to the steel nerfing, to be honest. Giratina does have Shadow Sneak, however, I do need prior damage to KO. I think at max it does like 87%, so I do need at least Stealth Rocks to get rid of my Gengar problem. I mean, Jirachi can U-turn, but it's a quad resisted U-turn. That's probably going to do like 4%, a whole whopping 4%. and even that won't be enough to guarantee a Shadow Sneak KO. It's really hard to dance around Mega Gengar with this team. I mean, I kind of use Kyogre to take care of it, but it's such a problem. It is such a problem. I can't emphasize enough how big of a problem it is. Then there's Rayquaza. Like I said, due to its airlock ability, Jirachi's not the greatest answer. I guess Kyogre can sponge a few hits, but Rayquaza is just so versatile. Like, I used a mixed Quaza back in 5th gen because Edgar recommended it to me, and it just tears holes in teams. Draco Meteor plus the combination of an Outrage is normally enough to stop Kyogre, but if he does lock itself in Outrage and I have Xerneas left, then it just became setup bait for my Geomancy, and yeah, that's something most people just don't want to do, but most times the players are smart enough to keep Rayquaza out of that situation so it doesn't become setup bait. But yeah, Rayquaza is just such a problem. And then the last problem I've kind of noticed, and I know this might seem a little arbitrary to some of you, is Arceus Steel. Specifically the supportive sets with Calm Mind in Will-O-Wisp. Mewtwo X is kind of my main check to those kinds of things. I mean, if Xerneas has a Geomancy up, then it's a lot easier as long as I hit my Focus Blast. But for the most part, Arceus Steel, if it gets set up quite a bit, and it does have Will-O-Wisp, I have a severe problem on my hands. And there's not a whole lot I can really do to manage it, just because I don't really have a good answer. I mean, if there's other things left, I can always phase it out and like save it for later, so to say, but if I lose Mewtwo and Xerneas, there's no way I'm gonna be able to take that thing down one-on-one. Alright, I think that concludes my yammering session on my team. Like I said, I will have the link to the Smogon RMT in the description. Thank you guys so much for listening to me talk about this. I really do like this team, I really do. This is one of those few teams where I actually like it, because I'll tell you guys a secret right now, 9 out of 10 times I don't like the teams I make. I don't. And I just want to like trash it, and I don't know. It's weird. Like, if I don't like it and I just don't, I'm not gonna work on it. I'm just gonna drop it and throw it away. But I do like this one. I hope you guys do too. And yeah, you're always free to drop comments and questions below, because, you know, it's an RMT. I'm supposed to get question and comment about it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys when I do. So until then, guys, later.